Welcome back to Key Safety Talks. We're kicking off our daily look at safety and health for engineers by Roger L. Brauer. We're going to be covering the whole book, chapter by chapter, every single day.
It's going to be quite a journey.
It is.
Yeah. Chapter 1 really sets the stage. It explores why safety is so important.
Yeah.
It looks at it from different angles, not just the feel-good reasons, but ethical, legal, and economic perspectives, too.
So, it seems obvious that we don't want people getting hurt.
Right.
But the book digs into, some less obvious reasons why safety should be a top priority.
Yeah. So the humanitarian aspect is fundamental, obviously.
Right.
But it's really interesting when you think about how societal values actually turn into laws and regulations.
Okay.
We have building codes, we have
Yeah.
environmental protection laws.
Yeah.
Those are essentially shared values becoming rules that protect individuals and the community as a whole.
It's like saying, hey, we value human life and a clean environment enough to actually, make rules about it.
Exactly. And for engineers, that ethical imperative is even stronger. Our professional codes of ethics put public safety above all else.
Wow.
Yeah. But beyond the ethical and legal reasons, there's also a really strong financial argument for prioritizing safety.
Right, because accidents can be really costly.
Accidents are super costly.
Can you put that into perspective for our listeners? How much are we talking?
So the book reveals a truly stunning statistic.
Okay.
Injuries in the U.S. alone cost over $406 billion every year.
Wow.
That's billion with a B.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And I imagine those costs go way beyond what most people would expect.
Absolutely. You've got direct costs.
Okay.
Think about safety equipment, training.
Right.
Those are investments made upfront.
Okay.
And then you have indirect costs, which are the consequences of accidents.
Yeah.
So you're talking about medical bills, legal battles, the time it takes to find and train replacements for injured workers.
Right.
It adds up so quickly.
It sounds like preventing accidents isn't just the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do.
Absolutely. From a business standpoint, from an ethical standpoint, it's a win-win.
It is.
And then, of course, you have the human cost, which is even more difficult to measure. The International Labor Organization reports that a worker dies from a work-related accident every 15 seconds globally.
Every 15 seconds. That's a grim statistic.
It's awful.
Yeah. Are there any specific professions that stand out as being especially dangerous?
The book uses data from 2012 from the U.S.
Okay.
and shows the top 5 deadliest industries. So in order, we've got agriculture, mining, transportation and warehousing, construction, and wholesale trade.
It's interesting to see agriculture at the top of that list. I don't know why. That's not the first one that comes to mind.
Right. It's not what you typically think of as high hazard.
Yeah.
But it really highlights the fact that hazards can exist in any workplace.
Right.
And this kind of leads to a bigger question. How can we actually proactively mitigate these hazards?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I remember the book talking about some case studies, really intense examples that really drove home how important safety is.
Oh, yeah.
I think one that really stuck with me was the Rana Plaza factory collapse.
Oh, that one is just devastating.
It's really awful.
Yeah, over 1,000 people lost their lives in that tragedy.
Yeah.
The investigation revealed a bunch of failures, really blatant building code violations. They had unauthorized floors that they added on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they ignored warnings about cracks in the walls.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a terrible reminder of what happens when profit is prioritized over safety.
It's like a ticking time bomb waiting to happen.
Exactly.
What about accidents that maybe aren't as widespread in their impact, but still have devastating consequences?
Right. The book also talks about a chemical spill in West Virginia.
Okay.
Thousands of people were left without clean drinking water because of that.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a reminder that environmental hazards had a huge impact on public health and well-being.
And the costs associated with something like that must be huge.
Astronomical, both in terms of cleanup and the long-term health consequences for the community.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where do engineers come in? What role do they play in all of this?
Engineers have a critical responsibility to design for safety.
Okay.
They need to make sure that structures are sound, systems are reliable, and processes minimize risk. The book highlights this concept of prevention through design, or PTD.
PTD. I like that. So instead of the old method of engineering revision where you wait for something to break and then fix it,
Right.
this is more about being proactive.
Exactly. It's a proactive mindset. It's about anticipating potential hazards and eliminating them through design choices, rather than trying to fix them after an accident has already occurred.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But technology is always evolving.
It is.
So how can engineers stay ahead of the curve when it comes to these new safety challenges?
That's the million-dollar question. As technology evolves, the risks also evolve.
Right.
Think about nanomaterials, for instance.
Okay.
They're incredibly small, which is what makes them useful in a lot of applications.
Right.
But it also poses potential health risks that we're still learning about.
So even tiny things can cause big problems.
Absolutely.
Kind of like stepping on a Lego in the middle of the night. Small, but it hurts.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Another good example is the development of glucose measuring contact lenses.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine diabetics being able to monitor their blood sugar just by wearing these lenses.
That would be amazing.
It's revolutionary.
Yeah, but I could also see like some potential safety issues there.
Absolutely. What if the sensor malfunctions?
Right.
What are the long-term effects of wearing these lenses?
Yeah, good point.
Thorough safety assessments are crucial before any of these groundbreaking technologies become widely available.
That makes sense.
And then, of course, you have the hot topic of driverless vehicles.
Driverless vehicles.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Everyone's excited about them. But I have to admit, I'm a little nervous about the safety implications.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex issue. We're talking about software glitches potentially leading to accidents, and even ethical dilemmas that need to be programmed into the system. For example, if a crash is unavoidable, how does the car decide who to prioritize?
That's a really heavy question.
Yeah.
It seems like public perception and concern play a big role
Yeah.
in demanding these safer technologies too.
100%. Public pressure has been a catalyst for a lot of safety advancements throughout history.
Right?
Think about the Industrial Revolution, the horrible working conditions, the countless injuries and deaths. Those were major turning points.
Yeah.
Society basically said, enough is enough. We need to protect workers.
Right.
And that's how we got worker safety laws.
It's amazing to think about how far we've come in terms of workplace safety since then.
It's remarkable. It just shows how powerful collective action can be
Yeah.
and how societal values can evolve. We've seen similar shifts with, public concerns over nuclear power, which led to stricter safety protocols,
Right.
and the Love Canal disaster, which prompted the creation of Superfund sites for hazardous waste cleanup.
Right. So it's like a cycle. Something bad happens, people get upset, they demand change, and hopefully things get better because of it.
Exactly. And we're seeing that same dynamic play out today with concerns over genetically modified foods,
Right.
nanotechnology, the ethical implications of artificial intelligence. As new technologies emerge, public perception is going to continue to shape the regulations and safety protocols that govern them.
It's like a constant process of adaptation.
It is. And as we navigate this ever-changing landscape, it's more important than ever for engineers to be mindful of the ethical and societal implications of their work. The decisions that we make today will have an impact far into the future.
That's a really powerful reminder of the responsibility we carry as engineers. But it can also feel a little overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even begin with such complex issues?
Right. So a good starting point is to adopt a holistic approach to safety.
Okay.
One that considers, how all of these factors are interconnected: technology, economics, societal values, and the environment.
It's like we need to break these complex issues down into smaller, manageable pieces and then develop strategies to address them.
Yes. And one of the most effective strategies for mitigating risk is to incorporate safety into the actual design of products, systems, and processes. And that's where the concept of prevention through design, or PTD, really shines.
Right. We talked about PTD a little bit earlier, but can you elaborate a little bit more on what that actually looks like?
Sure. In the past, we've focused a lot on engineering revision. You wait for problems to arise and then you fix them. It's a reactive approach.
Right.
PTD is proactive. It's about anticipating hazards, eliminating them through design choices from the very beginning.
So like baking safety into the DNA of the project.
Exactly. And there are different tools and methods that can help engineers actually implement PTD. For example, there's the ANSI Z590.3 2011 standard, which provides guidelines for how to integrate safety into the design process.
That sounds like a valuable resource.
Mm-hmm.
But even with the best designs and protocols, things can still go wrong.
Of course.
Accidents happen. So how do we respond effectively when they do?
You're absolutely right. Even with the most rigorous safety measures, you can't eliminate all risk.
Right.
That's why it's so crucial to have solid emergency response plans in place.
Okay.
These plans outline procedures for how to handle different types of incidents, from, minor injuries to major disasters.
So you're prepared for anything.
Exactly. It's about being prepared for the unexpected, having a clear plan of action to minimize the impact of any incident.
Right. And it's not just about responding in the moment.
No, it's not.
It's about figuring out why it happened.
Right. It's also about conducting thorough investigations to understand the root cause of the incident and identifying areas for improvement.
So every accident, big or small, becomes an opportunity to learn.
Exactly. It's a chance to prevent similar incidents from happening down the road. And as we move forward in our exploration of safety and health for engineers, we'll dig deeper into the specific tools and techniques and best practices.
Cool.
Yeah.
So engineers can really use this to create a safer and healthier world.
That's the goal.
It is.
Right.
It is. I'm excited to keep going. I'm sure our listeners are excited to learn more about how they can make a real difference in the field of safety.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So in our next episode, we'll wrap up our discussion of Chapter 1 and look ahead to what's to come as we continue our deep dive into this important topic.
It's going to be good. It's fascinating how closely tied safety is to economics.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 even gets into, assigning a monetary value to human life.
Really?
Yeah. It might seem kind of cold, but it's actually a necessary step when you're making decisions about safety investments.
Yeah, I could see how that would be important for a cost-benefit analysis.
Mm.
But it does feel a little weird,
Yeah.
putting a price tag on a human life.
Yeah, for sure. It's a complex issue, one that people debate all the time, but the goal isn't to downplay how important life is. It's more about helping decision makers figure out which investments will actually save lives.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about using resources effectively to get the best safety outcomes.
Exactly. Now, the book also spends some time on the idea of sustainable business practices
Okay.
and how they relate to safety and health.
I'm curious about that. How does sustainability fit into all of this?
Well, sustainability is all about meeting our needs today without messing things up for future generations.
Okay.
And it's often described as having three main pillars: economy, society, and the environment.
Okay, I see where this is going. If a business isn't sustainable, it could use up resources, hurt the environment, and even create unsafe working conditions.
Exactly. Safety and health are like essential ingredients in any truly sustainable business model.
Yeah.
Companies need to protect their workers and the places they work in, all while keeping their impact on the environment low.
So it's not just about profits anymore. It's about people, the planet, and profit.
That's it. A lot of companies call this the triple bottom line.
Got it.
And they're embracing this concept through what they call corporate social responsibility policies, or CSR for short.
CSR.
These policies outline a company's commitments to ethical behavior, being good stewards of the environment, and the safety and health of their workers and customers.
It seems like people are becoming more aware of these issues too. Like they want to support businesses that are doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Sustainability is becoming super important for businesses. Consumers are way more likely to buy products from companies they see as responsible and ethical.
That makes sense. Now, going back to the idea of societal values shaping safety, can you give us some examples of how that's worked historically?
Yeah, sure. Think back to the Industrial Revolution. The working conditions were awful. Injuries and deaths were just a normal part of life. But that was a turning point. Society basically said, we're not okay with this anymore. And that's how worker safety laws came about.
It's amazing how much progress has been made in workplace safety since then.
It really is. It shows the power of people speaking up and demanding change, and how our values can shift over time.
Yeah.
We've seen the same kind of changes with things like nuclear power, where public concerns led to much stricter safety rules,
Right?
and the Love Canal disaster, which led to the creation of those Superfund sites for cleaning up hazardous waste.
Right. So it's kind of a pattern.
Yeah.
Something bad happens, people get upset, demand changes, and hopefully things improve because of it.
That's exactly it. And we're seeing that same pattern today with concerns about things like genetically modified foods,
Right.
nanotechnology, and the ethical side of artificial intelligence. As new technologies pop up, the way people feel about them will continue to shape the regulations and safety protocols.
It's like this constant back and forth.
It is. And as we try to make sense of this constantly changing world, it's super important for engineers to be aware of the ethical and societal implications of their work. What we do today will have a big impact down the road.
That's a really good point. It emphasizes the responsibility we have as engineers,
Mm.
but it can also feel a little daunting, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we even approach these complicated problems?
Yeah, I get that. So I think a good place to start is to think about safety in a holistic way,
Okay.
to consider how all these things are connected, like technology, economics, what society values, and even the environment.
So basically, we need to break down these complex issues into smaller, more manageable chunks and figure out how to deal with them.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to lower risk is to make safety part of the design of products and systems from the very beginning. That's where prevention through design, or PTD, comes in.
We've touched on BTD a bit before, but can you give us some more details on how it actually works?
Sure. So in the past, the focus was mostly on what we called engineering revision. You wait for something to go wrong, then you fix it. It's reacting to the problem.
Right.
PTD is all about being proactive, anticipating problems and eliminating them through the design process right from the start.
So it's like building safety into the very foundation of a project.
Exactly. And there are a bunch of tools and methods that can help engineers actually use PTD in their work. For instance, there's a standard called ANSIAS Z590.3 2011. It gives guidelines on how to include safety in the design process.
That's really helpful. But even with the best designs and all the safety rules in the world, things can still go wrong.
For sure.
Accidents happen. So how do we handle them effectively when they do?
You're absolutely right. Even when you take every precaution, you can't completely eliminate risk.
Right.
That's why having a solid plan for emergencies is so crucial.
Okay.
These plans lay out exactly what to do when different kinds of incidents occur, from minor injuries to, major disasters.
So you're ready for anything that comes up.
Exactly. It's about being prepared for the unexpected, having a clear plan of action to minimize the impact of any incident that might happen.
Right. And it's not just about responding in the heat of the moment.
Right,
It's
exactly.
also about understanding what went wrong in the first place.
Yes, it's about conducting thorough investigations to really understand the root cause of an incident and figuring out how to improve things.
So every accident, no matter how small, is a chance to learn and prevent similar things from happening again.
Exactly. And as we continue exploring safety and health for engineers, we'll dig deeper into the tools and techniques and best practices engineers can use to build a safer and healthier world.
I'm excited to keep learning. I'm sure our listeners are too.
For sure.
So in our next episode, we'll wrap up Chapter 1 and look ahead to what's next as we keep diving into this crucial topic.
It's going to be a good one.
We've covered so much in this first chapter, everything from the ethical reasons for making safety a top priority to the economic side of things and how society's values actually shape regulations.
We have.
But before we wrap up, I kind of want to circle back to the human element for a minute,
Okay.
because those real-world examples of accidents, they were really powerful.
They stick with you.
They do.
The Rana Plaza factory collapse, it's a stark reminder of just how devastating it can be when safety is ignored. Over 1,000 lives, just gone.
Yeah.
And for what? A little bit of extra profit.
It's really sad. And, the book makes it clear that it could have been prevented.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the investigation showed so many warning signs that were ignored. Building codes were violated. There were cracks in the walls. They added extra floors that weren't allowed.
It's a perfect example of what can happen when profit comes before people's safety.
And it raises an important point about the responsibility of engineers.
Yeah.
We have to speak up when we see something's wrong.
Absolutely.
We can't just blindly follow orders or put deadlines ahead of safety. We have a duty to protect people.
I completely agree. And it's not just about preventing those massive disasters either. Even accidents that seem small can have huge consequences, like that chemical spill in West Virginia.
Yeah, that was a good example from the book, the fact that thousands of people couldn't drink their water because of that spill.
Right. It really drives home the point that environmental hazards can affect a lot of people. And it's not just the immediate impact. It's also about the long-term health effects that we might not even see right away.
Exactly. And it gets you thinking about all the hidden costs that add up. Medical bills, missed work, property values going down, not to mention the strain it puts on the community.
Yeah.
It really highlights how safety isn't just some abstract idea. It's about real people and real consequences.
It absolutely is. And I think that's a crucial takeaway from this chapter.
Yeah.
Safety isn't just about following rules and regulations. It's about people. It's about making sure everyone is safe and healthy and protecting entire communities. And, as engineers, we have a unique opportunity and a responsibility to make a difference in this area.
That's a good point. So as we move forward with this book, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? Like, what's the big message you want them to remember from this first chapter?
I think the most important message is that safety is a complex issue, and it needs a broad approach to solve it. It's not just about checking boxes or following the rules.
Right.
It's about understanding how everything is connected: technology, economics, what society values, and even how people behave. It's about creating a culture of safety.
A culture of safety. I like
Yeah,
that move.
one that's embedded in every aspect of engineering and design.
And it's about always learning and adapting and trying to do better. Because technology is not slowing down, so the challenges to safety and health are just going to keep evolving too.
Well said. This first chapter really sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about. I'm really looking forward to digging deeper into this topic with you and our listeners as we go through the rest of the book.
I'm excited too. Thanks for joining us today on Key Safety Talks. Make sure to tune in for our next episode where we'll be diving into Chapter 2 of Safety and Health for Engineers. And remember, safety is everyone's responsibility. Let's all do our part to create a future where accidents are preventable, not just unfortunate events.